Thank you very much for the interview for Writers Connect. And just wanted to talk about your book, your first book, the novel. When you started writing the novel, did you just want to tell a story, or you also wanted to make a point through that novel?
I was hoping that I would be able to tell a story, but coming from Pakistan, coming from journalistic background, you are obsessed with politics, and I don't think any Pakistani, for that matter, Indian writers as well, whenever they write whatever story they're trying to tell, there's always politics, because we are a very, very politicized people. So I don't really know what point I was trying to make. But I'm sure, sort of in my, sort of somewhere in the back of my head, there was that thing that I wanted to make a point. But I was always constantly trying to tell a story and not care about what point I was trying to. That was my primary concern, to be able to tell a good story.
And since you are a journalist, so you've always been in touch with reading and writing. But writing a novel, was it any different?
Yes, I mean, my experiences of journalists don't really read much. They read what they write themselves, and then they read what other journalists write. So I haven't come across very many journalists in my life who are big readers, at least not in Pakistan, not in London, where I worked for a long time. So the writing process is completely different. You write a 1,000-word piece, it gets published next day. Some people like it, some people hate it, and there's that sense of instant gratification, and then you move on to the next subject. With a novel, it kind of takes a much longer time. There are many self-doubts. It's a lonely process. You have to do it all by yourself, and somewhere along the line you have to have that obsessive kind of conviction. You have to have like some faith in the story that you are trying to tell, and there are days and days and days when you don't have that faith, but you wait for it to come back, and you sort of again start writing, but that doubt kind of persists because you don't get any instant gratification for years and years. It's just you and your kind of notebook and your laptop. So that way it is quite different.
From your biography, I found out that you also went to a creative writing course.
Mm-hmm.
Did it help you in any way in crafting your novel?
I'm not sure if it helped me in crafting my novel, but it helped me in lots of other ways, because I had never been to a university before, and I had never been part of a writer's community where people were kind of trying to write their books. Mm-hmm. So it was quite liberating for me, to be at a university, a proper university, with lots of good writers around that you could chat to. Yeah. And then your classmates are basically going through the same struggles that you are. They are also trying to write sort of novels or short stories. So I think that is kind of comforting in the sense that you think that you are not alone in this world who is trying to do this and struggling with it and not getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. So you get this reassurance that there are others, people like yourself, who are kind of trying to tell their stories. So you sort of, for a brief amount of time, you feel like as if you are part of a community. So that is the help that I got from going to this creative writing course. Obviously, there were some teachers who were very good novelists themselves, and when they read your work in progress and they give you their feedback, so I think it does give you, if they like it, it does give you a bit of confidence. But I've also noticed that some people who started out on this course started out with a lot of confidence, but their confidence was shattered by the end of it, and they haven't written yet again. Mm-hmm. So in a strange sort of way, what the creative writing course, or at least the University of East Anglia creative writing course that I went to, either it will help you to kind of polish your craft and do something with it, or sometimes it can also cure you of your obsession to write. which I think is not as bad.
Talking about your first novel, can you tell us the writing process, your writing process? How many drafts did you do? How many months did it take for you to finish the story?
I mean, I'd been thinking about the story for a long time, but hadn't written anything. Had scribbled some notes, but nothing of sort of any substance. But when I started actual writing, from there to kind of finishing it, it took me 2.5 years. My writing process is quite chaotic. I just scribble obsessively on the trains, or sort of sometimes in office meetings as well. So when I think that I might have a page, then I will kind of sit down with it and type it out on a computer, then sort of print it out, then read it, So I can't really say how many drafts I did, because I was editing while I was going along. But I think after I had finished it, I went through 3 more drafts, but that was mostly about the minor changes, editing, subbing. It didn't really involve sort of any major rewrites.
A Case of Exploding Mangoes. I think it is one of the most hilarious novels that I have read in I don't know how many years. And but it also deals with very serious issues like dictatorship, power, international politics. So, I mean, did you knowingly kept the thread of humor in the story to sort of bed this serious story?
I don't really know. It wasn't a conscious decision. I've always liked funny stories. I'm kind of also quite taken in with Pakistan street culture, where people, that's how people do things. They tell jokes about serious issues, and that's how they deal with it. I think it also has something to do with living under long periods of dictatorships and censorship, where you can't really change anything. There's a certain kind of helplessness to that situation, and the only way of dealing with it is that you make fun of it. So I think since I grew up around that period, so I think that must have influenced me.
Mr. Mohammed Hanif, you are a first-time writer. What will be your advice to other first-time writers?
I think there will be only one advice, which is that whatever you have written, print it out, take a pen and read it yourself, and read it again, and see how it compares to the books that you really, really like. And be very, very harsh with your own text. Sometimes it's very easy to fall in completely love with what you've written, but try and be objective. And before you ask somebody else to read it yourself as many times as you can.
Thank you, Hanif Saab.